Stripped of your visitation rights as Godfather ran the law. A reinvention of the secret weapon, neath the apple, Eve and Adam bomb. The meaning you're a two-stepper, running backwards, leaping to the deep abyss. Flashing thirsty teeth, reaching for a cash purse, wishing bone crack and real. Crash the high horse on broken land of all hopelessness. And leave it as it is, dead and beat, feetless, sober wit and over with. Slowly lead them to the pit by hand. Barbecue smoking, nosy kids dove into the Zosa mentality like pass around degrees as we approach the end.
The time is now, how did it even come to this? Run and get your lost my infant. Good written chapter when it's over, really I'm in control of what I thought you already knew. Climbing to
the meaning you're a two-step Eve and Adam bomb. The meaning you're a two-stepper, running backwards, leaping to the deep abyss. Rights as Godfather ran the law. A reinvention of the secret weapon, neath the apple, Eve and Adam bomb. The meaning you're a two-stepper, running backwards, leaping to the deep abyss. Flashing thirsty teeth, reaching for a cash purse, wishing bone crack and real. Crash the high horse on broken land of all hopelessness. And leave it as it is, dead and beat, feetless, sober wit and over with. Slowly lead them to the pit by hand. Barbecue smoking, nosy kids dove into the Zosa mentality like pass around degrees as we approach the end.
The time is now, how did it even come to this? Run and get your lost-minded infant. Good written chapter when it's over, really I'm in control of what I thought you already knew. Climbing towards infinity with the ability to make the living arrangement come true. For instance, we claim to be innocent, you're polluting the mind misused.
Shallow as an open grave. Empty promises to piss blood pumps through the heart with shards of glass and paper thin consciousness. Market to the mass land populace. It's on and popping at the mountaintop, ready for collapsing on the village local locksmith with guns cocked and automatic upgrade. Hell stops as rain of bullets on the long-awaited bombs drop. Countdown to 2012. Hell's crossfire sells itself without any low-grade demons help. Let's rock and roll, lock and load, stop, drop and roll, and salute the liberty till it rocks.
Assemble Voltron, you got served inside scoop according to the venue. What's to happen to the world now? Making it till you remember our past life rescued. Reincarnated, hyper-extended peace, love ballads. Dance Dance Revolution, two-step in the name of organizing malice.
Yo, what's the world coming to?
No satellites despite us monitored to get along.
What happened to actual facts?
They broke it down in fractions in this song.
Are they man and machine now?
Disassemble, readjust with your cyborgs formed at the spleen.
How about a hand for minds and friends, making a transformation in the stars out the favorite starving artists, blistering fingertips and random thought, mutated, manufactured, and mass marketed, hell of a plan for a bunch of narcissists scheming grandiloquently. So fuck it, run with the pack, save yourselves and let your savior pick up the slacks. Self-mutilation isn't only a once-a-week ritual, it's a necessity. Glam and fat guys your people blindfolded through the gauntlet with their hands tied behind the back and let them make their own decisions, falling off the
rare moments I've compared to the end of the world. We've learned more than we asked for. Can't complain, it helps me maintain my sense of emotion to the brain. Sentiment and action to the uses aligned and arranged. Still I was going on, slingshot bypassing the obvious change.
Cause temporary satisfaction floats through the brains of men. Like if it ever really happened, then it all just came and went. The sin's the deadliest attraction. The devil she plays to win, make reality what you imagine. And when thoughts where it all begins. And I'm completely and utterly unimpressed by your animation. It's can't amazing it couldn't caress a woman's desperation of a young man's gun damnation. Old soul that demolished your road home, no safe haven, a safe way out. Earthquake and no explosive, pole vault into thin air, you catapulted from your face.
Hello my fair derivative comrade. Sadly the mistakes I made stayed, wouldn't trade anything in the world to replace my alpha and omega mishad. Along with my feelings towards life, forget that. Hate it but you gotta love it, I got some energy moving along despite measurements of the mishaps.
Yo, what's the world coming to?
No satellites despite us monitored to get along.
What happened to actual
They
facts?
broke it down in fractions in this song.
Are they man and machine now?
Disassemble, readjust with just cyborgs formed at the spleen. Projectiles, reptiles, and all sorts of things that go bump in the nightmare. John Mayer compared to rock and roll. Down to the riverbanks, closed down. Tomorrow we'll be open around looking for something to get in. Yes, so you would have believed missing. I seen you in person. Press the key. Houdini friends, how many of us actually even have? Not that you're the one, just because you're planning to make it. Opportunity strikes and the leeches were planning to take it. For the sake of balance, I felt to entice revenues. Give it a chance, I keep moving before crawling. Whispers distance itself. Nature multiplies ocean on the self seashore. Were you sure you actually wanted more of my help? I felt what it felt like to hurt. Ewoks are just mechanized tumbleweeds. Not to sound absurd, but someone, something, sometime words sound different.
Yo, what's the world coming to?
No satellites despite us monitored to get
What
along.
happened to actual
They
fact?
broke it down in fractions in this
I
song.
need a man, a machine now.
Disassemble, readjust, we're just cyborgs formed at the spleen.
Welcome to the Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And yeah, blessings to all you people out there. I greatly appreciate your time, your ghostly visage in obtaining to the materials I present. It's hard to know who is out there viewing these streams, but a group of sorts does partake, and they do reflect on a lot of the different set of ideas that I've attempted to put forward. Some of them get sidelined in the discussions, I have to admit, but regularly I've implored exploration. I've implored people to explore certain avenues of um, just to see what they come up with in reference to these major areas, right? Because we're sort of looking at four major areas, and we're exploring different sets of tools in order to obtain to those four areas, right? The four areas that I would like people to focus on, right? And this has been kind of a characteristic attitude of this show, right? Is that we want people to focus on the idea of nature, obviously, right? What is nature? Who defines what nature is? Okay, of course, we're talking about nature with a capital N. Where did it come from? Okay, and does nature have a will, a creative spirit, an intelligence, or is it simply just dead matter? Okay, well, if we examine the origins of nature, what constitutes it, and what is its sort of designation, right? And of course, that gets us into lots of different discussions that we've promulgated here about the nature of existence, right? And you can go all over the map. Now you go to Egypt, to Eurasia, right? To China, to the Persians, right? And the Middle East, right? Go all over the map and see that people had all sorts of different conceptions of nature. And so nature, right? Whether it's whether it has creativity, whether it has divinities, right, and so on and so forth. And these were obviously, there was this animistic idea, right? And of course, you have these two ideas that enter into the framework, which is anthropomorphism and anthropocentrism, right? And they're very pivotal in looking at Greek philosophy. And and in sort of looking at Chinese philosophy as well, the preeminence of humanity, right? Whether you're a Confucian or a Taoist, right? It matters, you know, the preeminence of humanity is, has a different, it hits different whether you're a Confucian or a Taoist, right? Because if you're a Taoist, right, humanity is important insofar as humans consist of a great power, right? And in terms of the sage kings, and they sort of have this notion of that there's this mandate of heaven, right? So there's a link between God, king, and people, and so on and so forth. So this early sort of idea that Mumford calls monotechnics, right? It was a way of consolidating all forms of technology and ritual and symbols, right? Okay, so you had forms of human organization, you had forms of work. Okay, you had social stratification based on the work. Okay, you had a supra religious order that maintained and cultivated the masses through the use of symbols. And some might say that's that's not really different to the situation we have today, right? We have a similarly a class of people who are sort of mythological, right? That are sort of they fulfill a supra religious function in the society in terms of they are the ones that mediate the use of symbols. Okay, they dictate the use of symbols, which symbols are good, right? Which ones are effective? Okay, which ones purport with God, right? Which ones purport with the devil, right? They sort of manage these things, right? Well, instead of that being the sort of supra religious order in the society, okay, it's kind of now the task of sociologists and anthropologists and medical doctors and propagandists who are basically they study social sciences, right? They study social psychology and so on and so forth. So now the domain of mythology is granted over to these groups instead, right? Okay, it used to belong to the priests, right? The poets, okay? Sometimes the philosophers. Okay, but now it's given over to the domain of the scientists. So what do we have, right? We have one class of people, right? We have work, right? The social organization, okay? You have the hierarchical organization in terms of the social stratification and and that's based on these sort of filtering devices in the society, right? Which consists of sort of a system of sort of checks and balances, right? As is written in the Federalist Papers, right? They create a system of sort of checks and balances and um, a way to cultivate competition so that a uh, filtering device is established in the society that allows the most sort of socialized types to rise to the top. So in terms of the um, the myths, right? They're still controlled by a super religious order, because they're not controlled by the people who are sort of the workers, right? Or the people who are part of the system of social stratification, right? But they're sort of controlled by experts that are already part of the class of society that is sort of controlled in a way, right? Because they are the ones who are taught to mediate the symbols effectively, right? Through the social sciences. So they are the ones that are, in other words, the intellectuals. Okay. They're the most inundated with the secondhand information within the society, right? They're also inundated with sort of foreign doctrines, right? They have to consolidate all of the information that goes in, and then sort of mediate it through the symbols that they're given to to construct, right? So, I mean, in terms of the symbolic and in terms of mono techniques, which is as I described, right? It's a sort of proto technical monism that's derived by the combination of the technical and the symbolic, right? Total domination of those means of both work and ritual, so that it's sort of the merger of the state and the sort of priestly class.
Well,
So yeah, so
let-
and,
let's say an AI agent
yeah, just one, yeah, just
takes
one
over,
second.
like,
And yeah,
oh,
just one second though. Uh, I mean, in the a technological society, right? This merger means a merger of sort of a doctor and a priest, right? Or like a propagandist and a priest, right? Because those were the functions fulfilled by them back in the day, right? But now the ones that mediate the symbols, right, are more the technicians. Yeah, go ahead, Truther. What were you gonna say? Yeah, blessings.
blessings, man.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, now I forget, man.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
My bad,
grab a
man.
beer. There's a specific, yeah. Well, it's not like you're bad. It's just my mind is like very specific. Then I immediately carry on if I can't say it. That's why it's a really weird balance for me to like no one interrupt and not to.
Yeah, it's no worries, man. But yeah, in terms of so you have this idea of humanity that gets tied up in the mix. Okay. So the second thing I want to look at is obviously human civilization, right? So the first thing was nature, right? The second thing is humanity, right? What are man's functions, right? What is the origin of man? What is the purpose of man, right? Does man have a spiritual purpose, right? Or claim? Does he have a spiritual origin, right? Or is man's origin simply just material? As I said before, you could ask the same questions for nature as you can for man, right? Is man intelligent? Right? Or is he just following a pre-program, right? From either his genetic or atomic or molecular, structure. Maybe we're completely either determined, right? Or we are have some sort of will or consciousness that is, separate from nature, right? As some like to say, and therefore we can mediate the spiritual or command the spiritual even while being part of the material, right? And so on and so forth. So there's this view of things, right? There's the idea that we're part of nature, but this means that we're sort of infinitely powerful because we are the end part of a sort of very complex process, right? So we are still dominant over nature, right? So this would be a sort of a proto sort of transhumanist view, right? So there's all sorts of different views, right? And obviously the two main ones I brought up in the modern context of sort of transhumanism and techno-Gaianism, right? That either we could
Mm.
transcend nature through through the machine, right, in transhumanism, or we can become one with nature, combine with nature through the technical apparatus, explore more of our nature, right? So there's this idea brought in, right? So in terms of you know yeah, that is one of the main things that we explore. And the third one is kind of coming in now, is this idea of God, right? How does the idea of humanity relate to God? Were you going to say something, Truth, or go ahead? I don't want you to forget.
I mean, no, it's like ever expanding. It's like, the topics you're getting into here, like the way you're saying them, it reminds me of a different way to say it, and then it relates to different points. And you know, you're getting at a greater point, and throughout it, I'm constantly reminded of certain things. Like it was about like some people could. I've heard about relationships being broken up because of AI girlfriends recently. Like dudes have left their chicks for like AI girlfriends. You're talking about technological girlfriends. I mean, that's retarded. Which is like that's like a defeat of the genetics of humanity. That dude's done. He's out of the gene pool. He's not reproducing. He's not gonna he's out. So it was something along those lines, but I'm still listening to it.
Yeah, but I think that's already sort of because see, the problem is as I explained on the first or second episode, is the algorithms actually choosing who you talk to and who you can date, right? Either through the dating app, right, or through selective ability to contact certain people, bringing certain people into certain conversations. So I think if they only offset like 10%, like say 10% of people have formed long lasting relationships that actually first the origin of those relationships was online, right? Then you can trace that. Okay, well,
Right.
on this percentage of the population, right, the algorithm and how it pairs people together has had long lasting effects. So that goes to how humanity is shaped by the machine, as I describe on the show, right? There's four critical stages, right, in terms of Rousseau. The fourth one I've added myself, right? But the first one is that man finds nature peopled with spirits, right? This is this idea that man is underneath the natural in terms of the nature is beyond man. It's greater than man in terms of the spiritual. So you could think of man sharing or a small sort of soul with a greater spirit of nature, right? But then as man begins this process of anthropocentrism, anthropomorphism, and Mumford suggests, right, that this process sort of pairs with the establishment of large sort of civilization, right? With a king as sort of sun worship, right? That this represented a transition from sort of worshiping the natural forms to going beyond nature, looking at the sun, right, as being sort of beyond the natural world, right? So we're not looking at nature deities, right? We're looking at the sun now, right? So and this sun god usually replaced the pantheon and became the head of the pantheon, right? So and the sun god also represented the king, right? So as above, so below. There was this idea of the king reigning on earth as the sun god ruled in heaven, right? And
Yeah, the son of God.
yeah, so the son of yeah, so they had this idea established, and of course this is Mumford in 1930s, right? So he's already putting together this sort of anthropological idea, right? Very innovative stuff. Obviously I don't follow it, right? But he still says that there's a female and a male god, right? So before God used to create with this consort, which meant that he's still tied into the earthly sort of spirit, right? Because he's still tied into having a woman, and so it's still tied to humans, right? But as soon as you get this sun god going, right, he doesn't need anything to come into existence, right? So like God gave birth to himself out of himself, right? So this becomes like this idea that it starts with the sun god, and this kind of means that the sun god represents humanity, right? So humanity sort of transcends nature or the natural form. So now, right, man takes the god, right, that's in nature and puts him in the temple, and the god in the temple is higher than nature, right? It transcends the natural world, right? And it also looks like a human, right? So this is the anthropomorphism of God with the human form, right? And then also, so then, man makes himself God, right? And this is the third stage that comes from putting God above nature and making man the mediator between God and nature. And this is where man creates or fosters the universal aspect of man, right? And finally, right, man starts to idealize that man is a part of the collective, right? So man is a final product of not only history but of the collective effort of humanity, right? So this universalism comes to mean that man is the final product of the a sort of process of history. And this is what the Marx
Would
Hegel and these guys sort of thought of, is that man is the end of history. They said that universalism of man
would that
is the end of the process of history, the proper end of the process of history, right? So finally, if man is the end of the process of history, then what comes after the end of history? Well, probably man that is refashioned by sort of combining himself
oh well that
with this
right.
sort of
So
industrial
we
civilization, right? The industrial society, right?
because
So
my
so
question was
so these
referring
are
back to like
so,
this
but
collectivism
these are
point.
the four. Yeah, but these are the four phases, right? You go from nature
Mhm,
to
mhm,
to man, to God, to technology, right? So and this
mhm.
is because we start to create man in the image of the machine, the same way we wanted to create nature in the image of man, right? So so we transfer the same
And
process
this
to the
is
machine.
whose philosophy?
What?
Primarily, primarily who's driving that philosophy?
This four stages, this is from Rousseau, right?
Rousseau. Okay.
Yeah, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Yeah.
Because it's like the collectivism of man. It's like Vox Day is like uh, his name is a reference to like the will of the people is the will of God. I forget how it's said, but
Yeah, I heard about that. Vox Day or Vox Populi or some shit that's
yes,
like,
Vox Dei, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Yeah, the will of the people is the will of
yeah,
God.
you know. So
And so
yeah.
it's like it's kind of like this usurpation. Is that a usurping of the creator God in replacing it of the collective people who were made in his image with this other philosophy than is of the natural creator that made people?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
where does it
and this is
separate?
kind of like one of the things that also happened is that, right, in the transfer from sort of paganism, right, to the ideals of the Greeks, right, the humanistic ideals of the Greeks, right, it was these the Hellenism that spread, right, all over from sort of North Africa to India, and this sort of Hellenism, right, which really infected the Jewish mind, right, it brought with it a lot of different pressure, right? And this sort of Hellenism, right, culminated in a deeply sort of humanistic philosophy that obviously merged with the Christian concept, right? And of course, in the Christian concept, right, they're reaffirming the sort of connection between man and God, right? So within the Christian sort of conception, and because this was predominant in the West, right, the notions of Aristotle and Christianity sort of merged. Okay, and this was a huge idea because what really reinforced it was the merger of Jewish concepts with Aristotle, right, in the form of Maimonides, right? But when Aquinas merged with Aristotle and created this scholasticism, this had a huge impact on all subsequent philosophers, right? Like, for example, right, um, Descartes, Spinoza, and Leibniz, the architects of the philosophy of the Enlightenment. Okay, in both in terms of and I guess you could say Locke pretty much, right? Because Locke is creating this notion of the tabula rasa. Okay. Descartes is saying that the rational mind is beyond nature. Okay. For Leibniz, right, and Spinoza, right, they're sort of having a discussion about how you can expand this notion, right, and implode the notion of sort of Cartesian dualism itself, right, that this isn't really a appropriate mode, but all of them agree that in a sort of deistic conception of God, and this really um you know obviously it creates these three schools of philosophy, right, in terms of empiricism, rationalism, and idealism. Okay, they're like the three headed dog or whatever, right? And this three-headed dog, right, as they say, right, they gave to the British the world of the sea, which is economics, right? They gave to the French the world of the land, which is politics, and they gave to the Germans the world of the air, which is metaphysics, right? So the combination of these three things, right? British economics, right? French politics and German metaphysics, right, became very dominant, very well poised to create a sort of three-headed beast, right, that would then lead to sort of every aspect of you know sort of those postmodern, right? Not only that, but socialistic philosophies like John Dewey and Bertrand Russell, right? For example, right? They took on a more pragmatic view, right? And that was informed by sort of the scientific worldview. So sort of American and British philosophers, they started to doubt the notion of absolute truths, right? That and even in sort of metaphysical doctrines. Okay, and this became a huge. So, what really usurped religion was philosophy, right? What really usurped religion was sort of Kant and Locke and these guys putting their sort of Aristotelian views in a sort of Christian wording, right? Where they were sort of acting like they were doing battle against, um, you know, people who didn't believe in morality and religion, and they poised their philosophy in this sort of mode that they were, preserving, religion, right? Descartes and all these guys, right? Locke, and they were studying alchemy, and they didn't give a damn about the Bible, right? They didn't believe in any of that stuff, right? So they wanted to subvert religion through philosophy. They studied the Kabbalah. Okay, they were like Freemasons and stuff, right? And they basically succeeded, right? And this is the world we have is mainly due to their subversion of the Judeo-Christian worldview and coding it in these philosophies, right? And then hiding their sort of occult and alchemical sort of views that sort of go along with their, why they chose certain philosophies instead of others, right? And if I had to, explain it in the more simpler way, I guess it would be that last bit I just did. But yeah, as August Comte said, right? He sort of said there's this idea of how they went from um, you know, um, the mythological to the metaphysical to the sort of scientific modes. Okay, that there's these three transitions for man. Well, this is how they view progress, right? And of course, what transferred us from the world of religion to the world of science is philosophy, right? This metaphysical mode, right, that he suggested mediates between us believing in superstition and believing in
So
actual a science that could be universal in the truth
philosophy is
of
the
the
mode between religion and science. Is what?
that yeah for August Comte, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that kind of relates to the previous idea that I was putting down, right? And so there's all these different thinkers, and this relates to Joachim of Fiore, right? Who said there's the age of the Father, the age of the Son, and the age of the Holy Spirit. Okay, so there's these three modes throughout history. And of course, this was this is a sort of just to explain the dispensationalism, right? How dispensationalism and futurism are linked. Okay, and of course, this links back to the notions of Teilhard de Chardin, right? Who combine the notion of the telos, right, with the notion of evolution, with the notion of Christianity, right, and man and God merging in the omega point and nature transforming as a result of this fusion, right, of man's creativity with God, right? As Kurzweil was saying, right, our intelligence will increase quadrillion fold, right? So there's this notion about this exponential increase, right, of activity, of complexity, and causing a sort of crescendo. And this is what Prigozhin talks about too, right? This is how evolution works, how novelty is created by complexity, creating new patterns, right? New patterns emerge by dissipating systems, right? Where a new amount of complexity is reached by a system, it then collapses and merges into uh, a new pattern, and so on and so forth. When it maintains its tension point very far from the equilibrium, and then creates a new spin-off or new mutation, or so on and so forth. So this is the way that nature creates new information, right? And so on and so forth. So that there is never a sort of complete array of information, right? They want to break this notion that that there's nothing new. Okay, they want to shatter this idea, right? To put it in the words of John C. Lilly, right? He said, in the province of the mind, there are no limitations." Right? So this is that notion, right? Unfortunately, first brought to us by Parmenides, right? Right, which is the sort of inversion of his thoughts, right? Where he said, from nothing, nothing comes, right? And nothing is basically impossible, right? Well, they say, well, actually, impossible is nothing, right? If you can dream it, you can do it, and so on and so forth. And there's nothing beyond your imagination, and there's so on and so forth. Seeing is believing. And this comprises the two notions of voyeurism and escapism, right? Um, right. Voyeurism and the idea that seeing is believing, right? And escapism and the idea that if you dream it, you can do it, right? And the obviously the number one thing you want to escape is reality, right? Reality is the trap, right? So yeah, either by creating an alternative world, or um naming things make nothing look like something. Yeah, exactly, Jake. Yeah, yeah, precisely. That's why it says in the Tao, there's already enough names, right? We have to know when to stop, right? The trap is for prey, right? The net is for fish, right? Once you've got the prey and the fish, you could throw away the trap and the net, right? It says, where can I find someone who is without words, right? Who's already gotten to the point of what he has to say, right? And doesn't need the words. Yeah, blessings to Alchemos. Salutes. I appreciate you. Yeah, we dropped this new Made by Machine Bob. So go check it out if you get the chance. That's on the Cyber Caliphate channel. Cyber Caliphate 0101. This is the true OG. Majestica Madness. I appreciate you. One of my favorite chatters. Always some pretty critical one-liners that she's dropping a lot of times that I think are pretty deep. I appreciate her words. Yeah, so Little Wing, I appreciate you. Blessings. Name. Salute. Yeah, I appreciate that, Lorp. Yeah, Mark, thank you for watching, sir. Little Wing. Yeah, Dr. E. Blessings, brother. What's going on? Innate Ways. Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for watching. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, blessings. So not a lot of chat activity. Wow, that's it? What happened to everyone? Oh, well, yeah, I appreciate you guys. Yeah. Yeah, blessings, Alchemos. Thank you guys. Yeah, we talking for a little bit. Laid down some things. I wonder where everybody's at. See, everyone's always in the Discord talking. They never come up on the machine lives anymore. It seems like I've created too too compelling of a space in the Discord for people to want to interact here and be hounded by a bunch of feds. I mean, there's 17 people watching here. So if you could tell other people that the machine lives is on, and we'll get into a bunch of topics and issues and spread this around. Obviously, we get nothing for this, right? And yeah, we spend time looking at a bunch of views. We gave a huge breakdown of transhumanism. Okay, not only on Truth or Cop Show, but also here on the Machine Lies, as I promised. We did a breakdown of the Transhumanist Declaration, and I got a review from some of my homies that watch regularly, and they said it was a very passionate good job that I present. I really felt like I wanted to do a passionate sort of hammer down the concepts. So yeah, I feel like we did that definitely on Truth or Cop and here. And yeah, I mean, we've spent hours breaking down.
Yes, you did. And I got I'll get on the phone with her. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, I think you said you got to go, but kind of.
Yeah, no, I was saying you did an excellent job. I was trying to fucking hang up on the phone with my sister, but I couldn't. And you were like going on about that. You did, but I'm going to jump off of here.
Yeah, blessings, bro. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I heard you this time. Yeah, you kind of roboted before, but yeah, blessings, brother. Yeah, thank you so much for being up here, man. And yeah, man. I guess we'll take this opportunity to play a little music for you guys. And this is a really good thing I made a video for recently called Robo Sapien. And Robo Sapien by Techno Animal. I think that kind of summarizes what we're getting into here, right? As I've said many times, Robo Sapien by Techno Animal. And, while I was searching the song, I noticed there was a sort of, I think it's like 3D. It's either like a toy or a cartoon called Robo Sapien, where there's like a robot, so I got to look up what that is. It's either like a little kid's cartoon where it's like a little mech suit, or maybe it's just a robot. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. But yeah, Robo Sapien. Blessings. Yeah, we'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. I believe that's the length of the tune. I appreciate you guys. Blessings. Oh yeah, I dropped the link. So yeah, if anybody wants to come up, I mean, me and Truth or Cop, we always do shows together. So if anybody would like to come up, I'd greatly appreciate hearing your opinion. Blessings. Yeah, welcome, Max. Blessings.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Hope my sound's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right.
And yeah, how you been?
I've been good.
Yeah, yeah, I was
I've
thinking
seen
about you.
I've seen the future.
Seeing the future, huh?
The
Nice.
flesh bots.
Yeah, the flesh bots. Flesh
Yeah,
bot.
China's coming out with these new fleshy bots. They walk and talk and stuff. They
Oh,
learn your personality. They're
the
going to be your
talking
ultimate
bots.
companion.
Mother.
13,000 on order. They're around 30,000 yuan. So for the price of a car, you can have yourself a fleshy bot.
The fleshy bot. It's all jelly.
They say it's very realistic. It
Yeah.
looks very realistic. I can see the transition. First, you want to live with the fleshy bot, then you want to be a fleshy bot.
Yeah, I want an AI toaster.
I think you could get that.
You know, and an AI lawnmower, and
That's a good use of AI.
yeah, maybe just use it to.
Lawnmower man, you know?
Yeah, it'd be funny if they just used it to just power up things that we already use. Like,
Yeah, why not? Stick a little AI
we just had smart.
unit on it, you know?
Yeah, we said really intelligent tools. You had like, you could talk to anything. You could talk to your car. Talk to your stereo, and I think pretty much people talk to their stereo already. They talk to their car already. They talk to their phone already. So I've
Yeah.
never done that before. I've never made the it just feels very, I don't know, if I'm going to talk to if I'm going to say something, it's going to be to a person, right? So I don't know. That's kind of my attitude right now, but maybe it'll change. But yeah.
They're saying that these new ones, they learn you personally, not like the chat bots, the regular chat bots that just kind of answer questions. These ones apparently store history of you, previous conversations, and they build upon that. The chatbots now, they always lose your conversation. They don't seem to be able to hang on to things for very long.
Yeah, I feel really weird when it doesn't understand what you said.
You just muted.
Weird feeling, yeah. Did I just mute?
Yeah, it just coasted you out and coasted you back in. That was weird.
Wow. Um. Okay, so I don't know if it does that all the time, but yeah, that might be because of the audio box. But yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're
Okay,
fine.
yeah. All right. So yeah, maybe if I play something else, it'll cut my audio out. So yeah, so there's a possibility of that. Let me put this on the screen here. These three quotes from the changing images of man. We'll be taking a look at this because it's the sort of synarchic plan or whatever, as to borrow a term from our friend Hyperborean. It explains a lot because I think it's like kind of like world government, so yeah, so I think this is too small on the screen.
Yeah, I can't read it.
Yeah, you guys aren't gonna be able to read
My
that.
eyes are terrible, though.
Make
That's a
this
lot better.
way bigger. Yeah, there we go. Maybe we'll just go one quote at a time.
That's way better. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see what this says. It says, I do not wish to seem over dramatic. And I don't know who this guy is. Let's actually look this guy up. You Bant. Diplomat. General Burmese diplomat from the United Nations. Okay, so and I think so this is in conjunction with the UN, or it's like an extension of a project there. They talk about Willis Harmon usually in the intro of my shows, right? And the IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's like it's one of the origins of the alien psyop, right? So yeah, it's one of the birthplaces of this alien sort of psyop, and they do a lot of parapsychology type of stuff,
That's
and
interesting.
yeah, and some of them have some prestigious people in their institute are connected with some prestigious people. So it says, I do not wish to seem overdramatic, but I can conclude from my information that is available to me as Secretary General that the members of the United Nations have perhaps 10 years left in which to subordinate their ancient quarrels and to launch a global partnership to curb the human race, to
Arms,
improve the human environment,
arms race, yeah.
to diffuse the population explosion.
Ooh, bad one.
Ooh. So you got to get rid of some people. And they're saying that they gotta, all the members of the United Nations gotta choose who they're gonna get rid of, right? And they're saying that they gotta subordinate ancient quarrels. What does that mean? That means probably religions, right? They're saying that your religions have to go, right? And they want to launch a global partnership. So just in that statement, you can see that they want to get rid of their religion, they want to get rid of some people, and they want to establish a global system, right? And
Could
why?
be could be family lines too.
Yeah, it's under the guise of environmentalism. It's like in the movie 12 Monkeys, right? Where
Yeah,
the scientists, right, they want to save humanity, so they use that group of eco-terrorists to, psyop the masses, right?
yeah.
Into like accepting their own destruction, so on and so forth. If that's even what's happening in that movie, right? There's a whole nother possibility, right? That it's all in the guy's head. And so yeah, so yeah, so improve the environment to diffuse the population explosion, to supply the required momentum to develop efforts if such a global partnership is not forged within the next decade, right? Okay, so I'm guessing it's too late, right? Um, fear that the problems have mentioned have reached a staggering proportion. And you know what really started happening in 1979, right? Is that they really started funding research like into computers, right? And then like in 1985, they developed a lot of stuff that could make computers like sort of commercially available for people, right? And so by the 90s, right, like by like 96, right, a lot of people had this like dial-up internet connection,
Yeah.
and so I think that's a huge part of this plan, right? Or something like that, right? Was to put the computers and then the cell phones in the hands of everybody, right? So that would
And
be
96 was when they 95 actually was when they included the human body into the internet. That's when it was
yeah,
adopted.
1985, right?
95.
Oh, 95. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I have a thing where they have like a computer mind interface thing at DARPA at like basically like MIT, right? Like in 1985, right? So
Yeah.
even then they were pretty keen on trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to connect the brain with the computer, right?
They've been recording our brainwaves since the introduction of the telephone, even the older ones.
Yeah.
They've been recording that a long time, trying to figure out your thoughts.
Yeah.
But now they're getting inside you with earbuds and shit, Aura rings, smart watches. It's a real door in.
Yeah. A biometrics, as they say, right?
Mhm.
That's the real door in. That'll tell you way more than anything you say on the phone, right? Or whatever, right? Is just how much your heart is beating if you say this word or that word, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well, from
that's
any node on your body, they can send
yeah,
signals throughout your body. So if you put a
yeah,
watch on, right, it's got a little LED light on the back. That's for interaction.
right. Um,
You'd be
so
surprised how many apps have biometric data enabled.
oh yeah, yeah. You have to like literally turn a lot of the permissions off, and even then, just by
Even
giving
then, you just like, dude, trust me, bro.
yeah, yeah, even then they're allowed to turn on any of them that because if you just click through the waiver that they offer, right, then yeah, even if you turn it off, they're allowed to have access to those certain features like your it's surprising what they have access to, like your camera, your sound, your voice, your microphone, right? Some of your computer files, right? They could look at what files are on your computer, right? And these are just like very regular apps that you download, right? These are the permissions that they have. And you can actually go look up a list of these apps like Facebook and Instagram and all these things. They're some of the top perpetrators of these things that I'm talking about, and you could look up what permissions they have access to by the app that you use, right? But yeah, there's a number of permissions that are just open to them just by you having the app, right? And so on and so forth. I have mentioned staggering proportions beyond our capacity to control. Yeah, it's too late, right? So let's see what's next. What's the next guy? Fred Pollock. I don't know who this guy is either. The only guy I know is Huxley here.
And there was Huxley. I know that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That guy's the guy who started UNESCO. That's a bad man. Fred Polak, Lodwig Polak, one of the Dutch founders of Future Studies. Future Studies. Man, this dude is weird looking, man. If you had to get like a bad guy in a movie, right, it'd be like this dude right here. Wow.
What is UNESCO?
World Heritage Sites.
Educational, social, and cultural. It's like a UN thing, but yeah, it basically created Planned Parenthood and other fun projects, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it says Polak was a recipient of the fellowship from UNESCO, the Ford Foundation, the Council of Europe, for his 2-volume book, The Images of the Future. So this book is called Images of Man, Changing Images of Man, and this is called his book is called The Images of the Future. So let's see what it says. Awareness of ideal values is the first step in the conscious creation of images of the future. Oh yeah, he just wrote a book called that. And therefore the creation of culture. Oh, creation of culture. See that? Not something that's based on traditions of a people, right? Not
Nothing
based
organic,
on,
no.
yeah, not based on ethnos, right? This is a manufactured culture, right? For a value is defined. For a value is by definition that which guides towards a valued future. So, see, doesn't that sort of usurp the meaning of what value is? right? Because he said a value is by definition that which guides towards a quote unquote valued future.
And a created future.
Yeah.
So
So in
who creates it?
yeah. So in
Is
his
he who values
definition,
it, but does everybody else?
yeah. So in his definition of value, he's defined value as a quote unquote valued future. What? What in the world, dude? Like,
Usually that's a no-no.
yeah, guides and he said a value is something that guides towards. So it's kind of like eschaton, right? You know, and towards a quote unquote valued future. Like, what do you mean quote unquote valued, right? And why is he using the fucking word again to define the fucking word he's defining, right?
Is he the only one that values the future? You know,
Yeah, yeah. So much for being like a craftsman of the English language here, you know, or whoever this translator is, dropped the ball. So any student of the rise and fall of cultures cannot fail to be impressed by the role in this historical succession by the image of the future. So see, this is kind of like symbols, right? The image of the future is like the symbols, right? I talked about this, how you could have lost futures, right? Because if you have a vision of the future from the past, it still changes your perception of what the future is like, right? Just as if you have a vision of the past, right, that is superior to the one of today, right, of a technologically advanced civilization of the past, right, through the mythopoetical understanding, you arrive at the notion of archaic revival. You want to bring back this great civilization, right? So either through the lost futures or the archaic revival, you can sort of you know, play with this concept of time, right? But obviously they want to create a image of the future to guide humanity, that's not a culmination of the past. I think he's saying it guides towards, I think what he's trying to say is like an unknown
where
future, right?
at the end he says, he, decided by the image which carries the greatest spiritual power.
Yeah.
Usurping
So
God.
yeah, I think he wants to create new values, right? And this is a Nietzschean thing too, right? That man is a bridge in the creation of new values, right?
Yeah.
So this idea that man sort of, you know, cuts his own, you know, roots, and so on and so forth. Any student of the rise and fall of cultures cannot fail to be impressed by the role in this historical succession by the images of the future. The rise and fall of images of the future precedes or accompanies the rise and fall of cultures. Uh-oh. So there's the thing, right? So the cultures, the rise and fall of cultures is in the past. The creation of culture is in the future. You see? So
We'll
so
get there. We'll get there eventually.
yeah. So
It's one of those endless those bridges to nowhere. You know.
yeah, so check out this sentence. The rise and fall of images of the future precedes or accompanies the rise and fall of cultures. So see, those two processes are the same process, right? In creating the images of the future, we accompany the rise and fall of cultures. In the end, the future may well be decided by the image which carries the greatest spiritual power. Um, yeah, hopefully. I mean, if it's quote unquote a valued future, then who knows? But
This is
Whose
this is
values?
this is word salad.
yeah, it's word salad to the extreme,
Yeah.
right? Let's check out this Huxley. Let's see if what this what this guy has come up with. Sir, much advanced, both in, and of course he's a descendant of Charles Darwin, right? Much advanced both in biological evolution and psychosocial evolution. Check out that second one, psychosocial evolution. I may want to try some of your biological evolution, but your psychosocial evolution, I don't want none. I don't want me none of that.
Psychopathic evolution.
I don't want me none of that. No, sirree, Bob. You can keep that shit to yourself. Yeah. Biological evolution. Yeah, that's nature kicking our fucking ass for like thousands of years until we became weird. Right? And but psychosocial evolution, that's us kicking each other's ass until we become fucking loser
Bunch of
conform
herd ass bitches.
bunch of hurt ass trick ass marks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Bunch of
exactly.
slow boys.
Yeah, with no whiteboard. Exactly.
Any in relation to Aldous Huxley?
Yeah, that's his brother, I think. Right?
I forget.
Yeah,
They're related.
yeah, yeah, I believe that's his brother,
Yeah,
Julian.
they're both in the club.
Yeah. Yeah, Julian Huxley, Aldous Huxley, right? Let me see here. Let me see. Let me confirm this shit. Relatives. Aldous Huxley is his brother. Yes.
Okay.
I forget who they are. I know there's a guy named Charles Galton, Darwin, and there's like I believe they're like interrelated with Darwin through him. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, so anyways, let's move on. But yeah, first Director General of UNESCO. Right here you could see here, right? First Director General of UNESCO, and here I've confirmed it says here that Aldous Huxley is his brother, right? So the legendary writer who wrote a critique of technological society in the Brave New World. I mean, who would have thought, right? You know what I mean? And then actually promoted the work of Jacques Ellul, the Technological Society. He may have been the reason that it got translated in English, right?
Shit, son.
You know, so it's kind of weird, right? That we're in this situation here because of these guys, right? So yeah, so quite a bit of weirdness there. So he says advance in science is of course obtained by adding minute particulars, but at intervals something like crystallization from a supersaturated solution occurs. See, this he's talking about emergence, that good old fashioned I think probably Platonic notion, right? Like it's like emanation, right? As when science arrives at an entirely new concept, right? Which then unifies an enormous amount of factual data and ideas, as with Newton or Darwin, right? He's talking about the paradigm shift, right? He's talking about way earlier, right? Oh, wait. This is 1968, so maybe I'm speaking too soon. When was the structure of scientific revolutions? When was that published?
Don't know.
Structure of Scientific Revolutions, 1962. So he's like 6 years late. So yeah, maybe I spoke too soon. Yeah. So he's talking about paradigm shifts, right? 6 years after this dude wrote that book, Structure of Scientific Revolutions, right? which I, it's, I've not read it, but he says like basically they believed in Aristotle, then they believed in Newton, then they believed in Einstein, and each time the discoveries that each one of them made created a new shift in the whole perspective of what they were looking at, right? So this means that it's
New distractions.
yeah, new distractions, right? But yeah, here's this term again. He says, in our psychosocial evolution, I believe we are now in a position to make a new major advance. Oh shit! Right? What are they going to make the panopticon? Right? Cyber panopticon? Right? That really spurs evolution on, accelerates it, right? I think that's what he wants, right? And obviously, he also used the term transhumanism, right? Which we found out that that wasn't his invention. He's often cited as being the one who coined the term transhumanism, but actually, we found out that that was actually Jean Coutreau who invented the term transhumanism, right? So yeah, it's all part of the plan, folks. Part of the plan. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a generational plan too.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So we only read 3 quotes from the beginning of the book, Changing Ideas of Man. That's a thing that and obviously, you know, Jay Dyer gave a bunch of presentations. He said, "This is the plot. This is the plot for the New World Order, bro." So yeah, so let's look at this piece of shit document.
A lot of these writers had family in the government military too. So
Yeah,
Bless you.
yeah, they had government in the military. Um, I'm trying to find where we're at. And this, oh, here we go. Down with technology. Down with technology. Motherfucker. Down with technology.
interesting thing with technology is now they're apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, it's just something I heard. They're trying to, I'm sure somebody's trying to do it, but advance human psychic abilities with technology. They had the whole Stargate program where thing goes swan, where they found that rotating magnetic fields will basically turn it on. So if they can privatize that or take it out into the public, that'd be awesome.
Huh. Yes. Yeah, don't use the microwave. Don't keep the cell phone on you. That shit's radiating you. It's crazy, man. But yeah, obviously we're not giving any medical advice. That's just something that is my preference, and I think you should look into what's going on.
It's a good idea. They they do send signals through you, and the more devices you have around you, the more signals that'll go through your body.
Right. Um. So. So yeah. So let me read this paragraph here and see what it says here. It says Shang Tzu's kind of um Taoist with his assumption of decline from a primeval state of perfection in antipathy to such civilized artificialities as morality, logic, organized government, and might be expected to look askance. What the hell is that? Askance. Holy smokers.
I think that's called Old English.
Yeah, let's check that out. Askance is an adverb that means to look or view something with suspicion. Might be expected to look askance at the rather hectic pace of technological progress. Ooh. In the first centuries after the belated start of the Iron Age in China in the 6th century BC, however, although Taoist writers in Shangzu show no gratitude for technological advances, ignoring Sui Zhen's discovery of fire, Fu Shi. Damn, unfortunate name that he has, right? Of hunting. And Shen Nung. Yeah, Shen Nung's a G, man. You know, yeah, you know what? What, the Confucians, right, like Mengzi, they got a problem with Shang Nung, right? But yeah, this whole thing about farming, it's interesting. The focus on agriculture, on agricultural society, and how that transitions into this notion both in Taoism and Zoroastrianism, right? How they have a huge notion, especially in the 4th century, already about like incorporating like agricultural practices into their teachings and so on and so forth, because you know types of agriculture and medicine and these things, you know, they're part of a more developed sort of civilization, right? I guess, right?
Yeah,
But still,
there
yeah,
are places where agriculture was basically your home, had a small plot,
right.
around Angkor Wat. They found out all the places had canals beside their houses. Every house, they had a complete system, water flushing through, fish in there. You'd grow water crops and land crops on the little plot of land you had, and they survived just fantastically. It seems,
Yeah,
perfect agricultural, agrarian, and aquaculture.
yeah,
Combination.
yeah. But Shen Nung is, he's connected with a lot of things, including like the cultivation of hemp, right? And so on and so forth. So yeah, Shen Nung is like a Taoist emperor, right? It's pretty interesting. Yeah, you guys could look up Shen Nung. He's kind of a legendary figure and definitely very important figure for the Taoists. So it says, even when mentioning them as sages, they seldom positively disapprove. The primitivist writer is unrepresentative, as we imply by giving him that name. He does speak of such cunning devices as stringed arrows, basket nets, and pitfalls as disordering the fish, birds, and animals, and may even be showing some awareness of ecological damage when he says that we dissipate the quintessences in the mountains and rivers and interrupt the round of the 4 seasons. However, even the primitivist uses technological examples primarily as metaphors. He objects to people wanting to manipulate human nature as the potter molds clay rather than to the potter himself. Such remarks as damaging the unhewn block to make vessels is the crime of the craftsman can hardly be taken literally. His criticisms center not on on practically useful devices, but on moralism, ritualism, logical disputation, arts, and luxuries. But there's one famous episode in the outer chapters in which a hermit coldly rejects a labor saving device proposed by a disciple of Confucius. I've read I read a bunch of translations of that moment. Right, we've captured that moment right from chapter 12, usually, of the Shangzu. Right, and yeah, it's where he tells the person, right, that proposes this labor saving device that people who use machines possess mechanical hearts, right? That in order to use such a sort of machine, you'll lose your inner simplicity, right? You yourself will become mechanical. So he's talking about this psychological transformation of the person with the use of these machines, right?
I can kind of see his point a little bit, but I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, it's a strange point, but
Right.
but I think he was the first to notice this idea, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like it's like
Thinking way ahead of his time, it makes sense. But when you're replacing like your hands with a plow, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of for me that would be a no-brainer.
I think it was more than that in the story. It was a more of sort of a like I think it's like called like a well sweep or something like that, where it would like plow and then drop water at once, so it'd do two things at once or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like some sort of primitive machine.
Labor-saving device.
Yes, yeah. So in the example, it's definitely a device of some sort, some sort of contraption.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm not sure if he'd be against tools, but definitely machines. In the example, he's against. And I think Lao Tzu even says, he gives examples of saying that
Okay. So
labor saving.
yeah, mechanization, I guess, would be the
Yeah, that labor saving devices and mechanization is a bad thing. It's kind of like there in the Lao Tzu as well. Because it's a well, it kind of says here, right? It says his objection is not social or ecological effects, but to the deliberate calculation and benefit of harm, disruptive of Taoist spontaneity, which motivates the search for new inventions. It would evidently be pointless to reply that in tilling and irrigating, he is himself benefiting from past discoveries. There are already customary exercises which do not start far off. That weighing of prospects which divorces the reasoning man from nature. The story concludes with a comment by Confucius, which many understand as qualifying the criticism of technology. They read an ambiguous sentence as he, the hermit, perceives one side of the matter but does not know about the other. But in chapter 7, Huananzu 120 BC, the sentence reappears in a plainer context where it can only be understood as, quote, he perceives the oneness of everything, does not know about duality in it. Our translation follows the second alternative. So interesting. So first Confucius is like he's sort of one-sided dude, and then later he's like he actually sees oneness in everything. So it's kind of like saying the same thing, but the second one sounds a lot more mystical, right? It explains why the hermit is said to preserve the tradition of Hun Tun, primordial chaos, right? Is what Hun Tun is, right? The mythical emperor who, in the very last episode of the inner chapters, represents the primal blob, right? Right, primordial chaos, primal blob, right? Out of which the myriad things have not yet begun to divide, right? All right. So maybe I'll read a version of this that I can find.
But he did point out anything that takes reason from man. So if it's doing your reasoning for you, I think kind of is the kill line in a way, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I like cars. I don't like the new cars though. They have too much, absolutely too much technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a radiated box with like yeah, somebody said they could hack into the USB thing and just shut the car off, whenever they want. It's crazy stuff. It'll be in the middle of the road. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah, they can turn it into a self-driving car too.
Yeah.
They've been
So
they can do that with OnStar. Somebody, you ever seen them hack into OnStar? That's yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so this will be the last thing I'll lay down here. And please interrupt at any point if you guys want say anything. This looks like it is a translation. I think Nick. Wait, what does it say here? Nina Korea. Okay. Zigong had wandered south of the state of Chu and was returning through the state of Jin. As he passed along the sunny side of the Han River, he spotted an elderly man who was working in his vegetable garden. He dug a well and was in the process of carrying the water back to irrigate his garden in a small jar and was working himself to the bone. He was really exerting himself, but had little to show for his efforts. Zigong said, a machine has been invented which would allow you to completely soak 100 vegetable gardens in one day. It requires very little effort, but provides great results. Would you want one of them, sir? The man looked up from his garden, saw the stranger, and said, how does it work? He replied, the machine is made from a long piece of wood that's been chiseled so it's heavier in the back and lighter in the front. The water can be lifted out of the well quite easily and quickly, like a dog lapping water from a bowl, then sprayed out over a large area. It's called a gao. Gao, it says here. The gardener gave him a dirty look and then laughed and said, I've heard from my master that those who possess machines must end up becoming mechanical in their affairs. Those who are mechanical in their affairs must end up becoming mechanical in their hearts and minds. If a mechanical heart is situated in one's chest, then one can't prepare oneself to receive pure simplicity. If one can't be prepared to receive pure simplicity, then the spirit becomes unsettled and the Tao has no place to enter. It's not that I wasn't aware of such machines, but it would be disgraceful to end up that way. Zigong lowered his eyes in embarrassment and couldn't find any words for a response. After a few moments, the gardener said, "And what about you, sir?" "I'm a disciple of Kong Qi, Confucius." The gardener asked, "Aren't you the people who are trying to learn how to emulate sages, thus placing um yourselves on a higher level than other people while crying a mournful song about how alone you are?"
That's pretty funny.
Simply in order to gain a reputation in the world? You guys forget about your spiritual essence, cause degeneration to your physical body. And for what? You don't even have the ability to set yourself straight, let alone set anything straight in the world. Please go away. I'm not lacking anything in my work. Zigong hunched his shoulders down and turned pale. He became completely disoriented and lost any sense of self-contentment. It was until he had walked for 10 miles that he regained his composure. One of the disciples asked him, "What kind of man was that?"
Bet he wish he had a car.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Thoreau said, he said, we ride on the railroad, but the railroad, it rides on us too. For sure. So it says here, aren't you, oh wait, I already read that. One of the disciples asked him, "What kind of man was that?" No, it's okay. Why was it that after you met him, your whole attitude changed? You turned pale, and for the rest of the day, you weren't yourself at all. I used to think there was only one person in the world who could really reach me, but that was before I'd come across this man. It's kind of like Diogenes, right? Where like Diogenes is like, he's offered like a bunch of stuff, right? Like to make his life easier. And the guy says, "Look, what can you offer me that the sun's not already given me? I just want to sit here and sunbathe. Like, leave me alone." So it's kind of like that, like beyond like the logical sense of like trying to decrease work for himself. Like that's not the point of what he's doing. It's pretty strange. So yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Not a lot of room for monster trucks in his world, eh?
Right. You know, so 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 yeah, so he says yeah, so he says, "I used to think there was only one person in the world who could reach me, but that was before I'd come across this man." Right? That's like Alexander the Great, right? He says, "Yeah, I thought it was only Aristotle who could teach me, but now I see that there's this other guy too." Right? So he says, "I'd heard from my master that in order to deal with the affairs and be successful at them, one must use as little effort as possible while achieving many things. That's the Tao of a sage. Now I found that's not so. In order to grasp the Tao, one has to make their virtue whole. One who makes their virtue whole has to make their form whole. One who makes their form whole has to make their spirit whole. One who has made their spirit whole, that's the Tao of the sage. By trusting life to take him along with different people without knowing what's really going on, his capacity for purity is boundless. The rewards and benefits obtained by clever machines must be forgotten in the minds of such a person. A person like that would oppose what wasn't coming from their own will, as well as opposing actions that weren't coming from their own heart. Even if the whole world were to praise him and accept what he had to say, he'd consider it to be frivolous talk and ignore it. If the whole world opposed him and rejected what he had to say, he'd figure he didn't fit in with their group mentality and not let it bother him. The world's praise or opposition wouldn't harm him, and that's what's called being a person whose virtue is whole. I'm someone who still gets disturbed by other people, he says. Let me go to the Robber Z, and we'll.
Really curious on the panel here. If I can ask a question, all of you here, what level of technology, if you believe it becomes evil, what level do you think it does that for you?
I'm willing to go with the definitions of Mumford and Alul and Scribina. I think those three guys are really smart, right? And I think they were really smart in looking at the 14th century, right? I think from the 1100s to the 1400s, there's so many different types of inventions and things that make this modern sort of world possible, right? So I would think of any number of inventions from 11 to the 15th century, right? That I would think is completely off the tables, right? Like the mechanical clock, the printing press, so on and so forth, right? So I'm personally,
jars and stuff like that.
Sorry, what was that?
Leyden jars and stuff like that, because they were playing with electricity back then, I think. A little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, perhaps. I think that those things obviously have a capacity to, to be abused, right? On a massive scale, right? You can mass produce those things, right? They have cross cultural symbiosis and so on and so forth. So yeah. So so here's another one. And we talked about that a lot on the show. Right now, what to do with that information is a whole different question, right? What do we do with that info, right? So it says here, Kong Z Confucius had a friend named Louis Z. Zhi. I don't know how to say that, right? Zhi. Um, I'll just throw this on the screen so you guys could see it too. So I'm not like tripping out on the translation here. But as you guys can see, not sure. I think we need Frank Monday to pronounce that. But yeah,
I took French, maybe.
Louis Z G, I guess. Right.
No, that's
Yeah.
not
So yeah. Yeah, his younger brother went by the name Robber Z. Robber Z and his gang of 9,000 men ran rampant throughout the empire, savagely attacking the feudal lords and dukes, blasted through walls, and chopped down the doors of people's houses, made off with their horses and cattle, and abducted their wives and daughters. Their greed was so intense they paid no heed to their own relatives, ignoring their parents and siblings, and didn't make ritualistic sacrifices to their ancestors. Give me 1 second, guys. Um, okay, I gotta go scroll down. Sorry, guys. Yes, let me scroll down here. When they passed through an area, those in large neighborhoods would send extra guards to their city walls, and those in smaller neighborhoods would go into hiding. Countless people suffered at their hands. Kongzi said to this dude, Liu, right? Fathers must be able to instruct their sons. Elder brothers must be able to teach their younger brothers. If a father isn't able to instruct his sons and an older brother isn't able to teach his younger brothers, then there's no value to the relationships between father and son and brothers. At this time, you're a talented official while your younger brother is known as Robert Z, who's causing harm to the whole world. And you're not able to teach him a thing? I can
Sad
tell you,
trombone.
yeah, sad trombone. I can tell you in confidence that I'm embarrassed for you, bro. Please allow me to go speak with him. As so Lou says, as you said earlier, a father must be able to instruct his sons, and an elder brother must be able to teach his younger brothers. If a son refuses to listen to his father's instructions, and a younger brother refuses to accept the teachings of his younger brother, of his older brother, and yet you think you can go knock some sense into him? What makes you think you'd get anywhere? Besides, Z is the type of person whose heart is like a turbulent spring, whose attention span changes direction as suddenly as the wind. He has enough strength to contradict anything that opposes him, and an ability in debating to make the other person feel like they're all wrong. If you do as he wants, then he's happy. If you go against him, he goes into a rage. He has no problem with insulting whoever speaks with him. You really shouldn't go see him. Kong Z didn't pay attention to his advice with Yan Hui as his chariot driver. Yan Hui is his main disciple, right? So in the last thing, right, the guy who offers the farmer the machine, right, that's Zigong, right? Zigong is sort of the butt of a lot of jokes in Confucianism, right? So he's kind of like a Confucius disciple that doesn't really get it because he's overly focused on the ritual application, whereas Yan Hui is a student that has the highest sort of virtue, but he's in poverty, right? So he doesn't he's not like somebody of a lot of wealth and repute, right? But he's still like sort of Confucius top student, right? So this is his chariot driver, right? And and Zigong's on his right, right? So he's there with Yan Hui and Zigong, right? He set off to go to see Robber Z. Robber Z was resting with his gang in the sun in Mount Tai and eating a late lunch of minced human livers. Kong Z got out of his chariot and approached the senior gang member who was in charge, saying, "I'm Confucius from Lu, and I've heard about your leader's high sense of righteousness." He respectfully bowed twice to the man. After the man had communicated that message, Robert Z went into a fit of anger. His eyes became as big as saucers and his hair stood up on end. He said, "Isn't this the clever hypocrite Confucius from the state of Lu? Tell him this is what I have to say to him. You use words to create your own particular language and coin absurd militaristic phrases. You wear a hat like a branch sticking out of a tree, and your belt is made from the dead skin of a cow. You go around spouting all those absurd theories, but you don't even cultivate the land that grows the food you eat, nor do you sew your clothing. You flap your lips, pouring out sweet words, acting like you're some sort of authority on right and wrong in this life, like you're a master who's come to save this lost world. You promote the idea that people must learn from scholars instead of returning to their own roots. You put forth the absurd notions of filial piety and fraternal duty while deceptively seeking to get honor and rank from the officials. Your crimes are most egregious, and you'd better go back where the fuck you came from, buddy, or else I'll add your liver to my midday meal. Kong Zi again requested to see him, saying, I've come here on behalf of your brother, and I'd like to be allowed to enter your tent. The man relayed this message and back to Robert Z, who replied, bring him here. Kong Zi hurriedly entered the tent, refused the offer of a mat to sit on, took a few steps backwards, and bowed respectfully twice to Robert Z. Robert Z became extremely angry, spread his 2 feet widely apart, grabbed his sword from the table, glared at him, and roared like a mother tiger, saying, come closer, I'll listen to your words. And if I agree with my own ideas, I'll let you live. However, if they go against what's in my heart, I'll kill you. Kong Zi said, I've heard that there are 3 virtues of character. One may possess in the world: to grow up tall, large, and handsome without peer, so that all the people would be pleased to just bask in your presence. This is the highest virtue of character: to know how to weave together the heavens and earth and have the ability to discuss this with all living things. This is the middle virtue of character: to be brave, fearless, courageous, and determined, so as to draw together a band of soldiers to join you. This is the lowest virtue of character. If a person has even one of these virtues, it would be sufficient enough for him to take position facing southward and be held above the others. Now, you, General, are someone who has a combination of all 3 of these. Your body has grown to a height of 8 feet 2 inches. Your eyes are bright and clear. Your lips are flushed and red as cinnabar. Your teeth are as straight as a row of cowrie shells. Your voice resonates like a mid-tone of temple bells, and yet you choose to go by the name Robert Z. I'd be ashamed if I didn't try to get you out of this situation. Please take a minute to listen to what I'm suggesting. I'd like to be allowed to go south as your envoy to the states of Wu and yay or you, I don't know, to go south to the states of Qi and Lu, to go east to the states of Song and Wei, to go west to the states of Jin and Chu, in order to encourage one of them to set you up in a big walled city measuring hundreds of acres. This city would contain hundreds and thousands of households. You'd be respected as a duke or a prince. You could begin afresh in the world. Lay down your weapons, give your soldiers a rest, provide support and comfort for your brothers, and share with them in making ritualistic sacrifices for your ancestors. This is what sages and noblemen engage in, and what the world wishes for. Robert Z became even angrier and said, come closer to me. Those who allow themselves to be regulated by promises of profit and to be admonished for what they do by someone else's words can all only be referred to as people in a constant state of stupidity and vulgarity. Now, the fact that I've grown up to be tall and handsome and that others find pleasure looking at me is a state of virtue that was bestowed on me by the genes of my parents. This isn't something I could give myself any credit for. So why would I pay any attention to that whatsoever? Moreover, I've heard that someone who accepts praise for their good looks ends up being burdened by their good looks and eventually gets destroyed by them. Now you're telling me you want to set me up in a big city and crowds of people who would all want to put regulations on me as though I could profit from that, and where the people would be constantly treated like herds of animals. How long could that last? No matter how large a city is, there's always something larger in the world. Yao and Shun possessed the whole world, but their descendants didn't end up with enough land to stick an all in. Tang and Wu were established as emperors, but later generations of their descendants were ousted That's not getting great results from using what's temporarily beneficial, is it? I've heard that in ancient times there was lots of birds and animals, but few people, and the people all gathered together in protective nests in order to avoid them. In daytime, they gathered acorns and chestnuts, and at night they perched up in the trees. That's why they were called the clan of the nest building people. The people in ancient times didn't know they were supposed to cover their bodies with clothing. In the summer, they gathered firewood. In the winter, they warmed themselves in front of the fires. That's why they were called the people who understood how to live. By the time Shen Nong came along, they would lie down wherever they happened to be and would get up when they felt like it. The people knew who their mothers were, but didn't know their fathers. They coexisted in places where deer made their homes. They'd plow the land and eat the food they produced. They'd weave and stitch their own garments. They had no reason to cause harm to others' hearts, and in that way, their virtues flourished unhampered. That's all I'll read for today. I appreciate you guys. Is anybody still here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Robber Z, right? One of the most compelling things in the Shangzu. It's a crook, right? Telling Confucius how to live, right? And telling him that all of the virtue and praise he tries to gain through telling people what the best way to live is a waste of time, right? And so on and so forth. So real rejection of civilization and then going back to the primitive way of life, right, is sort of supported and championed, right? So there's two little examples, right? One from the farmer, right? I believe from the state of Chu, and then Robber Z, right? Yeah. So Confucius is used as an example in both of those in the Shangzu, and obviously he learned a lot from Confucianism, right? Confucianism was sort of absorbed into Taoism at that time. But yeah, we're getting back into the subject of Taoism. We're going to get back into the subject of the pre-Socratic philosophers as well. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for joining us here. Cecil, are you there? I don't know if he's. I think he fell. I think he's. Is that him sleeping or what is that?
I'm not sure.
I'm not even sure what that is. Yeah, let's take that off the screen before we get. So I don't even know what's going on. But yeah,
He
but
might
yeah,
be him sleeping.
yeah. But would you guys like to say some closers, some blessings?
Yeah, I think is the level of technology, like, pretty much any device being evil, like, that's too far for me because that makes the door hinge evil almost because that's a device, So do I have to pick my door up, put it back on every day?
Yeah, I don't think Robert Z was talking about particular devices. It seemed like he was talking about like more of a state of things, like like he said that these guys didn't know who their dad was, right? So it's like they didn't form social relations, and he's saying by the time that Shen Nong came along, people were just kind of living in a primitive way, where like a dude would just have sex with a female and just wander off,
Yeah,
right,
just
to the
a
next
nightly thing,
yeah, you just go off into the next field, right? And yeah, she'd eventually have a kid, and yeah, people would know their mothers but not their fathers, right? Because
Yeah.
people were just kind of wandering around. There was no society, am I right? So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So
Probably
I
just
think
a big orgy,
yeah, he's talking more about civilization, right? And he's saying that you can do these huge crimes. Now you have these empires, right? It's like you're set up, you set up these people who are like sitting ducks for people to come and rob, right?
Yeah, money, right? You give them money, right? Instead
Yeah,
of
exactly.
products and goods. and then you can take that,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what.
you know.
Yeah, and no one we've really looked at is like again with the clock and the printing press and stuff, they're more worried about the type of network that those infuse in the social fabric of society. It's not about any particular technology, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, a lot of these different thinkers and authors are part of the belief that man is technological to his core, right? That being technological is sort of like a method or a vehicle for our expression, right? And nobody knows how far back it goes. It could be part of the essence of man himself, right?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So yeah,
Yeah, we had to start making shapes and things, and just making stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is kind of a natural thing for humans to do. Just start making things.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for having me up. Have a good night.
Yeah. Blessings, Max.
Easy.
I greatly appreciate you, sir. Yeah. Take a look at this Max Vision remote viewing class. I'm gonna go and check him out. Great stuff. Yeah, Red, you got anything for these guys?
Do not seek the treasure.
Yeah, blessings. Yeah, thank you for being up here with us. Let me throw up Max's channel here. This is channel. Go ahead and subscribe to Max. And go catch one of his remote viewing sessions, right? And yeah, so yeah, blessings to Max. And of course, I highly recommend looking at the various translations of Zhang Z, right, on the Terabest Asia online, right? They got that popping off. You guys could go look at it. And and excellent stuff there, because they have, including the translation that we're reading, they have tons of translations right here. Okay, Burton Watson, Martin Palmer, Wang Rong Pei, Chung Wu, Brooke Ziprian. The one we're looking at right now is this one, A.C. Graham, right, where he's talking about the primitivist views of Shang Tzu. So yeah, Shang Tzu is one of the most important works I could recommend. I greatly appreciate you guys for joining us here. And yeah, thank you for joining us here on The Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And yeah, the first step to blinding somebody is getting them to open their eyes. And the first step to seeing beyond the programming is to realize how you've been programmed. You can't kill what you can't see. And what most people think is real is just flickering shadows on a screen, images of things that are not real. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. And I appreciate the participation for the people in the chat. Peace. Oh, you know what? Let me actually put this up here. Yeah, on the Cyber Caliphate channel, right? We got the Made by Machine Bob show. So yeah, we just made this we just dropped this show. Right? So please go and watch. Right? Here, hold on. Cyber Caliphate. Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I put an X there. It is what it is. Yeah, it's supposed to say channel. But yeah, alt channel. right? So go and check that out. Yeah, blessings. Cyber Caliphate, right? We got the new series made by Machine Bob. And yeah, blessings. Thank you guys for joining us.
philosophical ride, the body of the life force. DJ Cam in France, you know what I'm saying? It's the remix with DJ Premier. Go ahead and climb the barbed wire. Now step inside the fire. I'm hanging heads, I'm choking your neck with pure desire. You couldn't blast with me, no, kill you lavishly. Now don't you know that if you thought it, I'd have brought it. Now shit is monstrous, punk, you can't get by me. What was that thing that made you think that you're as high as I be? Physical and mental planes, I'm having nothing. Fuck it, lyrically awaken, nothing in the sun. You shouldn't tamper with this, please, I don't advise. I thought that much before you were born, you realize the body of the life force, chemically, metaphysically, mentally, physically, internally, horizontally, vertically, absolutely, I'm deadly. Minus no assistance, I'm kept in higher places. You can't erase this logo carved behind your faces. Battle stations wherever the beefing has arisen, and in the grave is what the body's gonna pissin'. A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. If you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. If you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. I'm using trances, G, and I don't think you got the ammo. A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. If you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. I'm using trances, G, and I don't think you got the ammo. Now it's the second verse. I guess you thought you'd get a breather. To have to keep on hitting you, making you a believer. It's heavy thesis, endowed with telekinesis. You'll never see it, to never think it, never reach it. Climb a pathway to the top, you'll never reach it. And don't get caught too close to the sun, you're gonna hate it. Your skin will feel it, while the heat starts to peel it. Tell you it's smashed to be nine, you wouldn't last with me. Seize control over your mind telepathically. Oh yes, it has to be done by someone. Gladiator holding the mic and I'm the shogun. Push my queen up, slice you up with my bishops. Knights moving L-shaped forms to back my rook up. Making 5 moves, I guess you thinking that you castling. Strategical ways of killing you, I've been mastering. You must have had a death wish to get with this. Power is nuclear, acts of physicists.
Keep it real in this rap game.
A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. If you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. And if you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. I'm using trances, G, and I don't think you got the ammo. A chance with me, you couldn't dance with me. If you think it physical, you couldn't dance with me. I'm using trances, G, and I don't think you got the ammo.
Keep it real.
I'm rocking the hip-hop philosophy.
Keep it real in this rap game.
I'm rocking the hip-hop philosophy.
Keep it real. Keep it real in this rap game.
I'm rocking the hip-hop